Serena Williams is the ultimate truth-teller of professional tennis, and Maria Sharapova is currently watching her entire carefully manufactured legacy completely unravel in real time. For 15 long years, the world consumed a toxic and deceitful narrative orchestrated by a desperately manipulative opponent. But here's the thing about the truth: it always comes to the light, and the facts surrounding this feud remain absolutely undeniable. What really happened was a calculated and vicious campaign designed by a player who knew perfectly well that she could never win on actual athletic merit, which meant she had to invent a rivalry out of thin air. Meltdown mode is the only way to describe Sharapova right now. Undeniable facts of her career finally stand exposed for the absolute fraud they always were. Wimbledon in 2004 served as the exact starting line for this bitter saga, providing the exact match that Sharapova used to launch a decades-long campaign of relentless manipulation. Walking away with a trophy that day gave her a platform, but what she did behind closed doors represented a massive procedural failure of basic human decency. Listening closely to another player's private agony, she claimed she heard Serena crying in the locker room after the match. Weaponizing this deeply private and emotional moment to build her own deceitful brand became her immediate priority. Documents prove she stored this private grief as ammunition for her own long-term financial gain, twisting a moment of immense vulnerability into a twisted marketing strategy to portray herself as a conqueror, building an entire corporate empire on the back of someone else's quiet and personal moment of devastation revealed exactly who she truly was. Eagerly eating up the entire story, the tennis establishment fully ignored the deeply manipulative and predatory nature of her actions. Serena Williams completely refused to be a victim of these calculated lies. Recognizing the total lack of integrity, the true champion immediately fought back with sheer and overwhelming power, deciding right then and there to let her tennis racket deliver the ultimate justice against a deeply dishonest opponent. Serena claimed the court as her absolute domain, and the result was that her opponent would never experience that level of unearned glory ever again. Total public embarrassment became the absolute standard for Sharapova every single time she stepped onto the tennis court from that moment forward. 19 consecutive victories. That is exactly what Serena delivered to systematically dismantle her opponent over the next 15.5 years of totally uncompetitive tennis. Every single match served as a humiliating legal defeat for Sharapova's entirely fake status as a top-tier generational player. Talent gaps, this incredibly massive proof the rivalry remained completely non-existent from the very beginning. Stepping onto the court projecting total arrogance meant absolutely nothing when Sharapova found herself completely dismantled in front of millions of viewers across the globe. Australia witnessed this absolute destruction perfectly during the 2007 final, where Serena humiliated her with a devastating and completely uncompetitive scoreline. Blown completely off the court, Sharapova managed to scrape together barely 3 games in a match that looked like a seasoned professional toying with a total amateur. What nobody expected was that the absolute bloodbath would continue exactly the same way at the 2012 Olympic final, handing her the most embarrassing defeat possible on the world's biggest stage. Serena barely broke a sweat as she brutally exposed Sharapova's complete lack of elite athleticism and genuine court craft. Unable to compete with undeniable greatness, Sharapova resorted strictly to toxic locker room politics to mask her glaring deficiencies. Maintaining an icy and arrogant demeanor allowed her to deliver snarky press conference answers to hide her total lack of actual tennis ability. Finding herself entirely outclassed and completely terrified, she grew utterly desperate to save face in front of her massive corporate sponsors. Her lies rapidly unraveled on the global stage for everyone to witness. Serena stood tall and played fair, dominant, aggressive tennis, while Sharapova completely crumbled under the pressure of her own manufactured hype, living in a perpetual state of meltdown every single time she had to face the undisputed queen of the court. The media constantly tried to spin her repeated and embarrassing losses as unfortunate setbacks, but the official match statistics told the absolute truth. Annihilation awaited her year after year and tournament after tournament on every single surface imaginable. Exploding into full public view, this intensely one-sided feud finally reached a boiling point in 2013 when the brave truth-teller called out the absurd charade once and for all. Delivering a stunningly honest magazine interview, Serena perfectly exposed Sharapova's fake, incredibly boring, and highly controlled public persona, pointing out that nobody actually wanted to be around someone so intensely negative and purely artificial in their daily life hit the exact nerve it needed to. Exposing the absolute reality of Sharapova's carefully curated image revealed that her brand operated as nothing more than a hollow and sponsor-driven shell. Panicking in front of the press, the villain went into complete defensive overdrive instead of taking accountability or looking inward. Sharapova fired back with incredibly low and intensely personal blows during her own media availability at Wimbledon. Desperately trying to deflect from her own miserable losing streak, she actively attacked Serena's personal life and private relationships. Deliberately bringing up rumors about Serena's new relationship resulted in highly inappropriate and calculated comments broadcast directly to the global press corps. This classless and deeply desperate move came from a player completely out of options and entirely void of genuine tennis talent. Shattering in a single defining instant, Sharapova's carefully constructed image of grace and elegance vanished completely while the world watched in pure shock. Showing her absolute true colors exposed her as a bitter and deeply manipulative individual who simply could not handle the crushing reality of her own inferiority. Her absolute meltdown in the press room proved exactly how heavily Serena lived inside her head rent-free for over a decade. But what happened next proved that the feud went far deeper than just toxic press conferences and pathetic locker room drama. The entire situation exposed a massive and systemic failure within the broader tennis industry and the global sports media apparatus. Looking directly at the WTA playbook reveals exactly how this deceitful narrative operated unchecked for such an incredibly long time. Damning, completely irrefutable, and entirely impossible to ignore, the financial evidence paints a crystal-clear picture of massive corporate corruption. 11 consecutive years. That is how long massive corporate sponsors and WTA executives actively pushed a wildly false and deeply biased narrative to artificially elevate Sharapova as the highest-paid female athlete in the entire world. This massive financial discrepancy stood as a total and unforgivable insult to the actual champion who brutally beat her every single time they met. Industry executives operated entirely complicit in this blatant disrespect towards Serena's undisputed dominance and actual championship record. Subsidizing a proven loser happened simply because Sharapova played along with their manipulative, highly biased, and corporate-friendly games. Suppressing Serena's undeniable power and her totally authentic presence became the primary goal of the deeply corrupt tennis establishment. Pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into Sharapova's bank accounts served strictly to create a completely fake and commercially viable rivalry. This highly calculated corporate strategy aggressively marketed a deceitful diva while constantly disrespecting the actual and living hero of the sport. Financial documents clearly outline a highly corrupt system perfectly designed to reward manipulation over actual and measurable athletic talent. Ignoring the undeniable on-court reality, corporate brands actively chose to fund a deeply flawed and entirely fabricated marketing narrative. Gladly taking the massive paychecks, Sharapova knew fully well deep down that she operated as a complete and undeniable fraud on the tennis court. Parading around the world in custom-designed outfits and massive billboard campaigns felt completely hollow when she secretly knew Serena would absolutely crush her the very next day. Betraying the sport's core integrity fundamentally altered how female athletes found themselves unjustly valued and compensated by major global brands. Building a massive empire entirely on such enormous lies meant that an inevitable and spectacular collapse was always waiting right around the corner. Striking with absolute and completely devastating force, the downfall arrived entirely, self-inflicted by her own overwhelming arrogance and deceit. Catching up to the villain in the most humiliating way imaginable, the ultimate truth completely shattered her fiercely protected brand overnight, free-falling into total disgrace. Her entire career evaporated when her darkest and most guarded secret found itself fully exposed to the entire world. Medical documents absolutely prove she failed a major drug test at the Australian Open, formally testing positive for a banned substance called meldonium. Explicitly clear clauses in the World Anti-Doping Agency rulebook meant her blatant and undeniable violation sent massive shockwaves through the entire sporting world. Immediately trying to play completely dumb, she staged a truly pathetic press conference in an ugly and carpeted Los Angeles hotel room to spin another massive web of deceitful lies, aggressively claiming it was an honest mistake. She blamed a simple and innocent oversight regarding a medication she supposedly swallowed for over a decade for a fabricated magnesium deficiency. But here's the thing, the hard medical evidence and the incredibly strict anti-doping rulebook thoroughly proved otherwise without a single shadow of a doubt, falling apart completely under the absolute scrutiny of international sports tribunals and independent medical investigators. Her totally desperate excuses failed to save her. Official tribunal documents confirmed she deliberately hid the substance usage from her own medical team and repeatedly failed to disclose it on her official anti-doping forms, broadcasting her incredibly deceitful nature for everyone to see left absolutely zero room for any reasonable doubt or unearned public sympathy, aggressively distancing itself from the incredibly toxic and radioactive fallout. The massive industry that once fiercely protected her vanished immediately, faster than she could even blink. Major corporate sponsors entirely dropped her highly lucrative contracts as they desperately scrambled to sever all their ties, wiping out the vast and artificial empire she heavily built on fake rivalries and locker room lies. Took merely a matter of hours. The United Nations permanently suspended her prestigious role as a goodwill ambassador, while her primary racket sponsor launched an immediate and highly publicized investigation. Meanwhile, Serena Williams remained totally untouched by the massive scandal, keeping her legendary legacy absolutely pristine and completely beyond reproach, continuing to fiercely break records and win massive Grand Slam championships. The true hero of our story completely inspired millions with her genuine and authentic greatness, proving that pure and unadulterated talent combined with completely honest hard work will always massively outlast manipulative PR stunts and highly illegal chemical enhancements. Serena claimed ultimate victory, standing incredibly tall as the absolute ultimate beacon of integrity in a sport that had constantly and relentlessly tried to undermine her unparalleled success. Defined her true character, desperately trying to claw back some minor relevance during her humiliating suspension. Sharapova released a deeply flawed and highly criticized memoir, explicitly using the book to once again aggressively attack Serena. She shamelessly dragged up the ancient 2004 locker room story all over again. This purely pathetic and highly calculated attempt aimed to totally rewrite history and somehow play the ultimate victim one last and desperate time. Procedural failures within the entire book only made her look intensely jealous, deeply insecure, and completely unhinged to the general reading public, filling the entirely fabricated text with outright lies. She included deeply obsessive and totally inappropriate ramblings about Serena's powerful physical presence and supposedly intimidating aura, dedicating entirely bizarre and completely unprompted chapters to describing Serena's strong body. Completely revealed a deeply uncomfortable and highly toxic psychological obsession, failing entirely to save her rapidly dying legacy. The terribly written memoir only absolutely confirmed everything Serena had ever publicly said about her intensely artificial and incredibly negative personality, laughing openly at the desperately transparent and highly embarrassing cash grab. The entire global tennis world watched her total public embarrassment rapidly reach an all-time high, ruining her once protected reputation completely and permanently came entirely by her own calculated doing and her absolute and stubborn refusal to ever take real accountability. Firmly backed into a tight corner with absolutely no way out, the villain realized she retained absolutely no major corporate sponsors to financially save her rapidly plummeting brand. Returning to professional tennis after her long suspension resulted in an absolute, undisputed, and totally humiliating disaster on every possible level, receiving highly controversial wildcards from completely greedy tournament directors prove they still desperately wanted to slightly profit off her completely shattered and heavily tainted name, but her actual and undeniable tennis skills vanished entirely, totally exposing the harsh reality of her heavy and long-term reliance on highly illegal banned substances, suffering deeply humiliating and extremely early round defeats against completely unranked and totally unknown players. She completely failed to ever reach the very top of the sport ever again, breaking down rapidly. Her physically damaged body quit on her while the entire professional locker room aggressively rejected her toxic presence, boldly and publicly calling her out as a blatant cheater. Fellow professional players entirely refused to show her any basic respect or offer any unearned and totally fake sympathy. Gone, completely and permanently, the massive, systemic corporate protection she once deeply enjoyed left her to solely face the brutal and totally undeniable truth of her rapidly fading career. Stark contrasts between these two entirely different players could not possibly be more clear, more totally absolute, or more incredibly profound. Today, globally and universally respected, Serena Williams stands as a totally legendary icon who bravely faced a deeply corrupt and highly biased system to win entirely on her own magnificent terms, fiercely fighting back against the heavily calculated lies and the blatant financial bias. She destroyed the deeply toxic corporate manipulation to permanently and undeniably claim her rightful throne, bulletproof and forever defined by unparalleled resilience. Her massive legacy rests perfectly secure alongside her absolute and total domination on the tennis court, finishing her entire career with a completely shattered reputation. Sharapova finds herself entirely reduced to an incredibly dark and highly embarrassing cautionary tale of overwhelming greed and total deceit. Hundreds of millions of dollars and massive corporate backing could not possibly hide the simple and undeniable fact that she always operated as a complete and massive fraud, ruining her deeply tainted legacy entirely and forever. She let blatant rulebook violations and a deeply toxic obsession with a vastly superior player dictate her entire life. History books will absolutely never remember the completely disgraced villain, kindly actively erasing the incredibly false and heavily funded narrative she desperately worked so incredibly hard to artificially build. Official legal documents remain permanently sealed. The completely unmatched and entirely one-sided tennis records stand totally permanent, and the absolute truth is finally out there for good. Maria Sharapova thought she'd destroy Serena Williams, but she only destroyed herself.